we live? Wonderful. We are live. Welcome, my friends. So, today, I've got a little bit of a plan. Nothing too crazy. Originally, I had a plan for today to tackle a challenge offered to me by one of my students. And there was a bit of a mix-up with the MIDI file. I had checked the MIDI file to make sure that I could open it and read it, which I could. Then I checked the sheet music I was sent, and I could open that, and it was good. I did not seem to double cross-reference the two, and so the MIDI project I was given was a different project from the sheet music I was given, and there was a bit of a slip-up. I tried reaching out, didn't hear back from him just yet, so I'm going to save that challenge for the next stream. The next stream in January, because we won't have one next week because of Christmas. Next stream, I'm going to do a challenge where I'm going to take a piece written by one of my students, and I'm going to see what I can do with it. What is my test? So today, instead, what I have planned for right now is to work on a piece for a project. I have a simple motif. And this is the idea. So I am setting, what this is I am making a new setting of the Agnus Dei prayer from the traditional Catholic rite of Mass. You all remember, I set this for a requiem I was commissioned for a while ago, and I have been commissioned for another similar project where I'm setting the same text to music. And I will share more context behind that project soon. But this is for my current commission. And given the thoughts I have, I want to create, and my keyboard's not working for some reason. Agnus Dei. I've got this idea in my head for this initial phrase that I was playing around a piano and I came up with. And I want to flesh this out. But for whatever reason, I'm running into some issues with my keyboard not working. So I gotta see if I can figure that out. If anyone has questions, ideas, we can also work on those instead. This is an opportunity to explore. All right, so Windows Media Q5. So my Q25 is on. But which one is it on? Hey, Kevin! Kevin, I can... So yeah, Kevin is the student who shared the MIDI file. I can open the MIDI file. It's just the wrong MIDI file. The one that you gave me was a bunch of chords. It seemed like it was a practice where you had done a bunch of different types of chords. I sent you a message a couple hours ago, but you must not have gotten it. No worries. If you'll share that, I'll do it in the next challenge because I'm very excited for the challenge. So I apologize for the disappointment, my friend. When you sent it to me, I had double checked that I could open the MIDI file, and I opened the MIDI file. I set it up in a Cubase project, and I had it all set to go. Then I double checked. I could open the scores, and those worked, but I didn't check to see that they were the same, that the sheet music matched the MIDI file. They were two separate projects, it looked like. So unfortunately, so yes, I could open the MIDI file. It just wasn't the correct MIDI file, I think. So my apologies. That's on me. I should have picked up on that. But we'll do that again at the next live stream. We'll have lots of fun showing how to create a realistic MIDI mockup and all that kind of cool stuff. Welcome, Kuda's Compositions. Welcome, Epic Fish. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, we'll iron it out on Monday. I'm looking forward to it. So right now I'm just kind of working on, why is this not set up? Right now I'm trying to work on a piece for my commission. And I was hoping to work on it live, but for this one, I kind of want to have my piano set up. You know what? Let me check something real quick. what happens if I swap MIDI cables? Because I think the problem is I originally had a MIDI cable set up with my full-size 88 keyboard. And when I opened this project, it said, hey, this MIDI keyboard is missing. So what happens if I just swap the cords real quick? Did that do anything? No, of course it didn't do anything. But let's see. Bluetooth and other devices. Q25, remove. Let's try popping it back in. Epic Fish message retracted. Brian, hello from Spain. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, everybody. Anybody got requests, questions, ideas, things you'd like to discuss? Other than that, as soon as I get this blasted keyboard working, I'm going to just keep working on my commission. That's not working. Okay. I don't know why it's not working. The Q25 is set up in active, in all MIDI, scanning MIDI inputs. They got all that. There we go. Nope. All right. Welcome. So let's just keep working, or trying to work. Oh, wonderful. Now it's not even doing that. What's going on here? Now my audio's gone. What is going on here? Y'all, this is frustrating. What is going on here? You know what? Best case scenario, let's just shut it down. Shut it down. Close Cubase. Let's try reopening Cubase. But yeah, I want to give you guys some updates on the projects I'm working on. How about that? I have got a couple different classes going on. Let's see here. Let's do Q25. Okay, we'll swap that. Hey, there we go. Fixed it. Got the mixing class started. Yes, I love Cubase. I've been using Cubase since 2018. I freaking love this software. The mixing class has started. First two videos are uploaded to YouTube already. Third one drops on Wednesday. And it will be, and then after the holidays, I plan on just starting to drop them much quicker. In January, the class on reading and writing music notation drops, and a new project. I'll show you guys the video I'm working on right now. I am doing a new series on synthesizers. 20 videos planned, mapped out, coming to you soon on YouTube, teaching how to use synthesizers for sound design and pads and all that kind of cool stuff. But let's see here. So this is the idea I'm working with, a new setting of the Agnus Dei prayer for the commission. So what I've got here is basically an F sus 4 chord to an F major, and then a C major 7. Emphasizing that kind of B. I've just got to basically figure out where I want to go with this. Right now, I've got a 2-bar idea. Agnus Dei. And then I don't like that this happens in the second half, because then the idea is like Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi. So right now I'm just kind of improvising, seeing where it goes naturally. the concept is I have 9 different Latin prayers to set into music for this commission. And each one being offered with a very specific theme or intention in mind. And this particular prayer, the Agnus Dei, which translates to Lamb of God, you take away the sins of the world, have mercy on us, repeats Lamb of God, you take away the sins of the world, have mercy on us. Then one more time, Lamb of God, you take away the sins of the world, grant us peace. So it's a 3-part prayer. It's been around for over 1,000 years. And it's been set thousands and thousands of times. And this one in particular is being offered with the intention, with the thoughts of widows and widowers in mind. So I want to create this sense of like sadness and kind of like that numb kind of pain, but at the same time trying to keep like the beauty behind it, if that makes sense. I've got a lot of thoughts going on for this commission, but this concept, this sound, well, I don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of like doodling around a little bit. If I wanted to take this and go from a, if I wanted to take this and do more of a craftsmanship approach, I would strip away the movement I've done so far. And I would very simply put the chords and melody. Do in which case I'm almost tempted. What happens if I just move everything over? To let this chord change happen on the beat. So if you're joining just now, I'm just working on a new commission. I'm working on a piece, sketching out just the bare base bones of an idea. This is an idea I had for the new piece while I was driving home from the gym today, which all of my best ideas come to me at the gym or on the way back from the gym. So then I'm going to take this and just stretch it out. So then if we go with my basic idea, my basic strategy is to go harmony. I could figure out my chords first. Comments. Nivek 2. Steven, are you just brainstorming out loud or can we provide suggestions? I am always open to suggestions. I'm brainstorming out loud. I'm just composing live. If people have questions or ideas, I'm always happy to tackle questions about music theory as well. This is just the project I have today. On the live streams, I always have something prepared. And for today, my project was just working on a piece of music I've been commissioned to work on. So right now, so yeah, if you have questions, requests, pop them in there. I'm happy to move on to other stuff. But if not, I'm just working on this music. So right now, my chord progression goes F sus4, F major, C major 7. So then I could also try doing the melody. News on you stay. On you stay. Let me check. So when I do these projects, I always have a journal that I keep. And for this journal, since I'm working with Latin, and since I very obviously do not just change some stuff. Since I very often do not have, let me just close this because I don't want to share any information I'm not supposed to be sharing just yet. All right, this is the text. And since I don't speak Latin, what I've done is I've gone through, I've broken up the syllables, and you can see the ones that are bolded are the ones that are traditionally accented while singing. Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. So that's where it's traditionally accented. What key is the project in? I don't have a key yet. All I have is 2 chords. F major and C major 7. Personally, that's a good question. Personally, at this point in my journey as a composer, and this point of my career, I don't usually focus on keys. I am a very chromatic composer. So rather than work in ideas of keys, of staying in within C major, and just limiting myself to the diatonic chords of C major, I tend to use something called Neo-Romanian theory by default. Neo-Romanian theory focuses more on patterns, focusing on combinations of 2 chords. Some of you might have heard I've done tutorials on things called chord relationships or chord combos, where I go, hey, that's cool. I like that sound. So I'm just going to build a chord progression from that. And I just find different ways to do different combos. So that was what you call an absolute progression. An absolute progression says, hey, I like these 2 chords, C major to G minor. So I'm just going to build a combination, a chord progression using only those 2 chords. This is an absolute progression. Let me see this. I've talked about these before. So let me pop this. Neo, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Romanian theory. I spelled that wrong. I know I did. Instead of focuses on relationships between pairs of chords rather than keys. That's scales. All right, so an example would be an absolute progression. A chord progression built from just 2 repeating chords, often with different inversions, until it gets interrupted by some sort of cadence. So for example, I was like, I really like C major to G minor. So I'm just going to keep repeating those until I find my cadence. Another option is period structure, which is one that I've shared a lot of times. I have a lot of videos on this stuff, where the pattern is A, B, A, C, where each letter is a different combination of 2 chords, with C being the cadence. So again, that same basic idea. My idea A is let's go with those same 2 chords. And then idea B says come up with a new idea. We need to repeat our original idea now. And then find our cadence. Repeat the whole thing. That is not one key. For example, G minor has a B flat. B flat does not belong in C major. Also, for example, E major has G sharp. G flat major, or like G minor and E major do not exist in the same key because one contains a G natural, the other contains a G sharp. All right? One contains a B flat, the other contains a B natural. But I don't care that they don't exist in the same key because I'm not using functional harmony. I am using Neo-Riemannian theory, which focuses on, wow, these chords sound cool together. So I'm going to just do that instead of trying to think, all right, how do they relate to each other within a key or scale? This is just something I do, something I find that I really enjoy. It's my style. And so that's basically what I'm working with here. I have 2 chords, or technically 3, that I think work really well for this original idea. And I could try. That's another idea. So I could, if I wanted, I could try repeating. Let's do G. Let's see how this sounds. Ooh. That was a D minor 7. I like that. I like that a lot. Don't know if the spacing works out. I don't know, that almost sounds a little too jazzy. I don't want a jazzy effect with all this. I want more of a kind of gothic choral sound, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Epic Fish. I was listening to the Hollow Knight Silksong soundtrack for quite a while and noticed that every boss track ends on a pretty high, tense, loud, bombastic moment, but it still sounds like a cadence. Can you explain how such a bombastic cadence works? I would need an example of what the chords are. There are many different ways to make a cadence. All right? Types of cadences. You can have a harmonic cadence. You can have a melodic cadence, a rhythmic cadence, a textural cadence, and a dynamic cadence. These are not, by any sense of the word, the only options, but these tend to be the most common. So without knowing what type of cadence is being used in your music, this is how I would make sense of it. Using specific chords to form your cadence. For example, a 5, 7, 2, 1. All right, so we could do even like we could expand that to make like a traditional jazz cadence. All right, that's a very common way to end a chord progression. Another one would be... That's another kind of case with like the diminished seventh. You could do, like I said, the jazz cadence from earlier. You could do a romantic cadence. There are lots of ways to end with a harmonic chord by using a combination of chords to bring the end to it. But there are other strategies as well. For example, with the melodic strategy, you can end in a pre-prepared register, meaning whatever octave you're working in, you stick to that octave. If you were to move to a new octave or a new register, then that builds momentum. If you wanted to, you could end by moving down is another way to help bring kind of closing. If the melody moves down, it's like an answer. If the melody moves up, it's like a question, just like in English, right? If I ask you a question and my voice goes up in pitch at the end of the sentence, does it sound like I'm done talking? No, it sounds like I want to have an answer, or at least I'm expecting you to give an answer. However, if I move down in pitch while I'm talking at the end of my phrase, then it sounds much more final. It sounds like I'm done talking. Right? So those are other ways you can do it. A rhythmic cadence, you can slow down the tempo. You can move to slower/longer note values near the end of a phrase. You can end on a strong beat, right? If you end on beat number 1 of a bar and just kind of hold it out, it sounds pretty solid. All right. Textural cadence. Texture, I'm referring to the numbers and types of layers being used. You can strip away layers gradually. So now you remove the rhythmic strings, you remove this, you remove that, and each bar that goes forward, more and more instruments are being pulled away until finally you're ending with like nothing. And it's just the solo melody that peters out quietly. You can reduce the number of registers. So maybe you're not reducing the number of layers, but now your bass line is no longer doubled in octaves. Your melody is no longer doubled in octaves. You're starting to just reduce, like peter out slightly gradually, again, reducing energy. All right, dynamic. So that's the running theme behind all of this. Gradually get quieter. This is the general theme behind all of this, is a cadence to help a piece of music sound like it's ending. That's what a cadence does. A cadence makes it feel like it's bringing down momentum. That's all it is. A cadence is any musical strategy to help reduce energy at the end of a day. So, Epic Fish, you were asking about how they pull this off in Hollow Knight. I don't know what specific strategies are being used. I have never played Hollow Knight. It's been a very long time since I've listened to the music. But I would say, chances are, you can probably go through, re-listen, and if the chords are not being used to create the cadence, you can probably brainstorm other layers and go, hey, how are each of these different elements being used to help reduce momentum? All right? Strong cadences are designed to reduce momentum/energy. That's all they do. Welcome, 23. Epic Fish, by the way, I like your approach to chord progressions. It has been very helpful to my personal workflow. Thank you. That makes me happy to hear. Thanks for sharing such a priceless knowledge. My pleasure, my friend. Thank you. Nivek 2, how about composing them in Gregorian chant style? Yes, that is the plan eventually. This is going to be sung eventually by a choir that specializes in Gregorian chant. There's also going to be a pipe organ. There's going to be possibly some strings, a timpani player, a lot of really cool stuff going on. But I always start with just my melody and chords. I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna have to call him back later. Let's see here. I don't know if I like the jump down to a perfect fifth. What if I change that? Because that's very beautiful, but it's not the vibe I'm looking for. Yes, the C major, that seventh chord is very beautiful, but I want... So my inspiration behind this particular piece that I'm just starting is, again, the idea of this entire piece is being commissioned. It's kind of like a... what's the word I'm looking for? It's being dedicated to, like, families and the life of a family, from like womb to tomb is the phrase I was given. The idea of basically like the circle of life and like community, because it's not necessarily born family, it's the families that we find in our lives, the people that we consider to be family. And each piece is supposed to capture a different stage in that family. This particular piece that I'm starting out with is actually not the first one in the series, it's one of the last ones. It's weird how it starts out like that. But it's the concept of the pain that comes from family. The idea that humans are, by our nature, fragile beings. That each of us has a finite amount of time on this planet, a finite amount of time in this life. And that inevitably, we all pass on. I have an uncle who passed relatively recently, who had a little thing he liked to say that I was like, he said, life is a hard game, no one gets out alive, kind of thing. It was a little tongue-in-cheek, but very true. No one gets out of life alive. And that causes a lot of pain. That loss engenders a tremendous pain. And yet, despite that pain, we continue to form these bonds regardless. We continue to seek out community. We continue to seek out relationships. And so I want this piece in particular to capture this sense of both beauty and underlying pain. So in which case I like that tension. Let's do T. So then I need something in between these two. So what if I did that? What if I did another sus chord? It was, I don't know. What do we do? What are we thinking, everybody? Hey, Tamashi, my friend, welcome back. Nivek 2, what about using some jazzy bluesy chords featuring flattened blue notes with extended chords? Ah, that's a possibility. I like that. Let's see here. Dang it. These sounds, that is a sound that I love. That is something but I can't let it get too bluesy or too jazzy. At least not with this one. I want a very serious sense of solemnity with this particular piece. Not saying that jazz and blues can't be used in solemn scenarios. It's not the style I'm going. I do want to keep some of that Gregorian quality. What could we do here? I don't want to do a major. I want to stick to mostly minor. We could do... could do... Augmented 6 chords. That could work too. That would work really well for my pre-cadence material. Let's see. Unused, stay. 3, 4, 1, 2. Unused, stay. What if I just repeated it a third time? We could do, because we've got our initial phrase. Repeat our idea. This could be sentence structure. I don't know. See, I'm a little self-conscious doing this in front of you guys, which is weird. I've been doing these live streams for years. I have written entire soundtracks live, or most of my soundtracks live. I did several of my theatrical productions I did live, but for whatever reason, this one in particular, I'm feeling a little self-conscious about exploring in front of you guys. Fully diminished 7th chords could work too. That might work. I don't know. Feeling a little self-conscious exploring this one with you guys. I don't know why. This one is so different. Anyone got questions? Like music theory stuff. Requests. Kevin's given some awesome ideas for the piece. I'm trying to think of the lyrics as well. I thought always the tricky part is setting lyrics, because the rhythm comes from the lyrics. In particular, something I've kept in mind. So things I have to keep in mind. Things I have to keep in mind while setting lyrics to music. All right. The rhythm needs to come from the words. And by that, accented syllables need to have accented beats / rhythmic values. Non-accented syllables should not be accented musically. In addition to that, verses need to share, or refrains, be mindful of which sections need to share melodic material. It doesn't make sense for me to write a different melody for two different, like the same melody for two different sections. They have completely different syllabolic needs. So as a reminder, the text I'm setting for this particular piece is the traditional Agnus Dei prayer. So I'm going, Agnus Dei. Then I think I'm going to repeat it. Agnus Dei. So then the next part I need to set is Qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 syllables in a relatively slow moving piece. Hey, thank you for stopping by, Kevin. Appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, I'll see you on Monday. Thanks for the ideas, my friend. You've given me lots to work with. Brian, could you go down further on that last chord? What do you mean, Brian? Do you mean like bring the melody down? Like, I could. And I was doing that originally, but then I feel like that's getting a little too jazzy. Although, I don't need the full chord. I want this to be a dissonant but beautiful piece. A lower note. I do like that sound. What am I going to do here? And then use the two parts as an A and do a response. That is the plan. These two parts. This is just the first half of the phrase. This entire part is just this. So it's not even the first half. This is 3 syllables. The second half has 11. And then the entire thing's going to be repeated because this text gets repeated. And then we have, honestly, the only parts that change are this. Repeat, repeat, different. It goes, Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi miserere nobis. That gets repeated. Then it goes, Agnus Dei qui tollis peccata mundi. That's the same part. Dona nobis pacem. That's what we need to have different. I don't know. Call and response. That's another part. I'm going to have to do actual arrangements as well. Because right now, this chord... It's closer. The arrangement I'm working with is closer to this. I've got more moving parts. Use a 7-5-6 syllable rhythm. That even final bit will give some resolution after the 2 odd number syllables. Ooh. 7-5-6. Let's see if that would work. Because don't forget, we need to make sure that so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. So the 7 probably wouldn't work. Because starting the downbeat, ending the first phrase with a strong syllable that needs to be accented, and then starting the next phrase with a weak syllable would be tricky. But the idea of having 2 odd phrases followed by an even phrase, that might work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, because then it's the same issue. That's the tricky part about setting lyrics, is if you want this to sound natural, you have to be mindful of where the stressed syllables land. So it's using the rhythm of the lyrics. Oh, you're talking about these, including this first phrase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That could work. But the problem with that is I've already set these first 4. Agnus Dei. And then I think I'm repeating that. Agnus Dei. I could just repeat it a third time. The idea of kind of building that. I don't know. Yeah, this is the tricky part. This is honestly, I think it's something I'm gonna need to be able to just fool around with. That's the tricky part. Is I love doing these things on stream, but then I feel like I have to explain my decisions, my thought process, and so it slows me down. But I do feel like we're onto something. So I'll probably call it in just a minute. Does anyone have any questions before I do? Any requests, lessons, music theory tidbits, things I can help with to make this time worth your while so it wasn't just me messing around with a piece of music that I'm trying to write? We could do, like I said, a couple different announcements. Got a new series I'm very excited about. This one is all about synthesizers, a 20-piece playlist coming to YouTube, 20 episodes, start to finish, how to use synthesizers. Doing that tentatively in partnership with Native Instruments, who has sent me a free synth. And then we're looking to see what I can do, what kind of partnership we can do for the full series. Then, in addition to that, the mixing class has started uploading. I've got the first 2 videos of the mixing class have already dropped. And the third one is going to drop on Wednesday on YouTube. And then after the holidays, I'm just going to keep cranking them out much quicker. The class on reading, writing, music notation is also almost done being developed. And then I'm going to start making videos and posting them in January. We have one last class that I'm raising money for. So far, that's 3. The synth class being sponsored by Native Instruments, the music writing notation class that's being sponsored by you guys, and the mixing class. That's 3 classes that will bring the total of the Academy of free classes available on the Academy to 7. We have an 8th class currently being raised. We're running out of time. We're only at 28%. But the 8th class that we're trying to raise funding so I can afford to make it, because it costs money to actually host these websites. I have to pay monthly fees to host these classes on this website. I have to spend the time building the class while still paying my bills. Still raising money for the 8th class, which is creating realistic MIDI mockups or creating realistic performances using sound libraries. So you can always support the Academy. There are recommended donation tiers. You can also put in a custom donation. Every little bit helps tremendously. So thank you to everyone who's already been so tremendously generous. No questions? No requests? All right, my friends. If that's the case, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you very much, everyone who stopped by. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. For those of you who are celebrating, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I will see... Let's see. I don't know. I'll see you guys. I don't know when I'll see you guys next. Probably in 2 weeks, since next week is the holiday week. But I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you to everybody else. Thank you to Brian for all the great ideas. Thank you for Nivek2 for all of the great ideas. Thank you to everyone who stopped by and participated in the chat. I appreciate each and every one of you more than you know. I hope you all have wonderful, wonderful days. And yeah, I'll see you all around. Have a good one.